Fantastic. Okay, everyone. Here we are in the month of the love system, the heart chakra. And for many people, it seems to be one of those chakras that is very nourishing, very healing, and it feels good for many people to go through. Not everybody, but for many of us, it feels kind of like a refreshment after having the heat of the root, the flow in the fire, especially after the fire. So it's nice to have more of a feminine feeling. And let me clarify when I say feminine, because we hold each of the masculine and feminine within us. And so when we went through the flow, the sacral chakra, now the love, the heart chakra, and then when we get to the third eye or the insight, this is the feminine. And so for some of you, that might feel more comfortable. For others of you, you might feel more comfortable in the masculine circuit, the root, the fire, and the truth. So gauge that for yourself. And I hope that the journaling and everything is unfolding as it feels right for you. So I've got a little activity for all of us to get us going and to get us in the process of sharing. Being that the heart is connected with the lungs and we're focused on the breath, what I'd like us to do is to start with a breathing activity. How appropriate, right? So here's how we're going to flow with it. We are going to do 4 breaths, not one right after the other very quickly. We're going to do them in staged sequences, and I'll guide you through. After the first guided breath, I'd like you to write the first word that comes to you. So if you can get a piece of paper and a pen, or at least have something to write on, you're not going to need a lot of room. You'll need room for 4 words, which is not a lot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to guide you through 4 breaths. So I'll ask you to breathe, you'll breathe in. The first word that comes to you on the exhale, I would like you to write that down. And then we'll take a little bit of a pause so that everybody can write their word. And then we'll breathe in again when I guide you. You'll breathe in, inhale, and then when you exhale, the first word that comes to you on that release, you're going to write that word down. And we'll do that 2 more times. So we're going to do it for a count of 4 since we're on the 4th chakra. 4 big breaths, 4 big exhales, and 4 words is what we're going to write down. Okay? Any questions? Does everybody have something to write on? You mean yes? If not, perhaps you can remember the words because it's only 4 words. Okay, here we go. Ready? So first get your posture really connected in if you can. You know, feet flat. And if it helps to have your eyes closed, that's okay too. Imagine yourself being rooted, being grounded. There's so much that's coming up this time within our chakra immersion around the root and the love together. Root chakra, our physical body, connected to the heart. So that might come into this activity here. So get your roots stable and grounded. Wiggle if you can, move side to side, your hip area and get your flow going. And then back and forth, kind of move the area of your fire to get that area primed as well. Like you're getting ready to light the match. And shoulders back in order to enable you to take in a nice full breath. So here we go. And again, a nice big inhale, a nice big exhale. And the first word that comes to you, I'd like you to write that down upon the exhale. So here we go. Ready? Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And take a couple seconds to write down the first word that comes to you. Welcome, Alicia. Alicia, we're doing a breath exercise. So what we're doing right now is a series of 4 breaths, and on the exhale, writing down the first word that comes to you. So we just did our first breath. Let's do breath number 2. Taking a nice deep breath in for the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And releasing. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first word that comes to you, writing that down. That was breath number 2. Let's do breath number 3. So breathing in for the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And releasing for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And writing down the first word that comes to you. Okay, and our final breath. Nice and deep for a count of 4. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. And release for 1, 2, 3, 4. The first word that comes to you, write that down. Everybody have their 4 words? Okay, Gloria says yes. Rebecca, yes. Everybody's got them? Tracy's there, yes. She's got her thumb up, perfect. All right, so 4 heart words: grateful, appreciate, forgive, and heal. So let's do a check-in on the 4 words that came up for you. The first word is something that connects to your sense of being grateful or gratitude. If you want to make a note of that, and I can also repeat it. The second word that came to you is the word that connects to a sense of appreciation. It's either something that needs to be appreciated or something that maybe has appreciation for you or someone. The third word is forgiveness or to forgive. So making a connection with that third word and the element of the heart of forgiveness or the active verb of forgive. And the fourth one is something that requires healing or something to be used for healing. So again, we have grateful, appreciate, forgive, and heal. What's on your t-shirt, Tracy? Feeling? All I see is feeling in green. Perfect for the heart. Perfect. Fantastic. So let's do a check-in. Let's do a check-in on our heart. Let's do a check-in on these words. And, you know, the intuitive heart will bring forth whatever story is coming through these 4 different elements. So who would like to start? You got it, Tracy.
At first, one of the words that came out, I was like, I do not even come close to getting it. And then I did. But so for peace, for gratitude and gratefulness, I got peace.
You got peace. Okay.
For appreciation, I got a lake.
Okay.
And then this one is really funny. My next word was a chicken. I saw this live chicken. And I was like, what? I don't get it. And then this might make me cry, but when he said forgiveness, I'm just wondering who I am too chicken to forgive. Or am I too chicken to forgive myself or what? But it was like, okay, it actually makes sense, which was amazing. Just to see this little fat chicken there and was like, oh. And then for healing or to be used for healing, this will come as no surprise, sunshine.
Ah.
Yeah. But the chicken, oh my God, that just cracked me up.
Tracy, can I toss something into the mix that came to me immediately when you said chicken and forgiveness?
Sure.
It's something that we were talking about this weekend with eggs.
Oh, whoa.
I'm just
That
going
just
to toss that in.
Huh. Huh. Hmm.
Just to, so peace, lake, chicken, and sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
And which one of these really, where do you have the strongest feeling? Where are you feeling lucky?
Well,
What has the most draw or the most feeling in the heart for you?
of course, the chicken. I mean, the other ones I really feel like are a part of me. And
Mhm.
obviously, the chicken is a part of me as well. But if I get it, that's the one I feel the most energy around, I guess
Yeah.
I would say.
It's definitely the most unique.
Yeah.
It's almost like, the unconscious is calling. It's kind of like, hello, there's something here.
Wow. I love it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Is there anything else that anything else that you wanted to check in on as it relates to your heart and the themes? I know you've been immersed a little bit more in the inside as of late. However, just in terms of immersing into the second week of the heart chakra, is there anything else that you'd like to share coming up for you?
Well, the other three words really make sense for what makes my heart happy.
Mm-hmm.
The lake and the water, the sunshine, the peacefulness, which is something that I also kind of correlate with the word grace. And it's something I'm working on in my life, to be more in grace. And those I feel, those I see.
Mm-hmm.
The one I appreciate the most is the chicken, and that's the one I'm sure I will journal on. But oh my goodness.
I hope so. That
Yeah.
is an intriguing one.
Yeah. Huh. I love it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
How
welcome.
interesting. Carolyn, would you like to go next? Oh, look, Gloria, were you raising your hand?
Yes, because I'm very similar to Tracy, because the third word was cats.
Cats.
Yes. But now when you start to make a summation about that, my brother and her wife is now is in a split up. He's not together now. So she has a cat. And now forgive cats. Your cat, why cat? So maybe I'm very in this kind of situation, because I think in my I don't know, in my life, you have to be with the man for the rest of the life. I don't know how I can explain that. So it's ridiculous, but I don't know why my sister-in-law, he can stay more time with my brother. So I'm very angry about that. And she has a cat. She has a cat. So maybe it's that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to forget her, because I know, agree, it's not my business, but in this time, the things happen. I'm grateful. It's what is very strange, because it's love, greens, like a lot of greens, that the greens, the wild greens, the food greens. I saw a lot of greens, and family.
And family for the heel.
No, these three words was for grateful. So I could start only one.
All three. Okay.
Yes, love, greens, and family. This is
Ah.
my only, yes. And appreciate, the second one is meditation. The third, cats.
Mhm.
And the fourth is for healing, love.
How does that last one connect to you in terms of love and healing?
Yes, because I think my path is coming to healing, not healing, to try to make a better connect with the people of the women in meditation. I have my website is Amatecer, is love yourself, like if I can traduce in English, but it's like yes, my point is, go to all these women to try to make love for inside, or the love is inside, not outside. So it's perfect. So I feel like burning in this moment.
Coming up for you, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Diana. You always surprise me.
Is there anything else you wanted to say that's on your heart? Did that cover what you would like to say? Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And who would like to go next? Rebecca. Let's see. Oh, just a sec. Let's unmute you. Okay.
Okay. For grateful, I got the first word that came out of my head was breathe.
Grief?
Breathe. Breath.
Breathe. Oh, breathe. Okay.
And my mother always had us, when we were upset or anything, to take 3 deep breaths. And I found that when my husband died, I had to go around and I had to remind myself, okay, 3 deep breaths. And when I meet, unfortunately, fellow widows who I do not want to invite into my club, I just say, I have one word of advice for you, and that is breathe. And I am grateful to be able to breathe. The second one was relax. I don't know how that came out for appreciation, but sometimes I'm able to relax, sometimes I'm not. The fourth one, or the third one for forgiveness, was love. And I think for me, showing love is actually symbiotic with forgiveness. And I have found that forgiveness is self-healing. Sometimes it's more for yourself than it is for the other person. And I thought interesting for healing, the word that came out of my head or first came to mind was health.
What was it?
Health. Being
Health. Okay.
healthy. And so, anyway, and I am just working on some health problems right now, and so we want to heal those, and I have every intention. And as far as the heart is, I just spent last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, our class really liked to get together. It was our 50th class reunion. And I spent 3 days with people who, I actually graduated from high school with my husband. We were high school sweethearts. So everybody knew Brett and knows me. Well, Mark probably already knew Brett, but anyway. But I just felt a lot of classmates coming up to me saying that they really thought a lot, they think about me, they think about Brett, and expressed their love, and I was really appreciative of that. So
Beautiful. These are very, everything you said, and then how you're relating to what is recently happening for you, it just feels like it's very much connected in. It feels very close in, and it feels like there's a lot that you're working through right now. And these words are very powerful: breathe, relax, love, and health. And to somehow have your own mantra, your own affirmation around those things.
yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right. Anybody else? Carolyn.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So I didn't realize we were going to match this up, so this was kind of fun. My first word was processing, for being grateful. And it's funny because I just did a Facebook post today because I was out for a walk and I saw a white egret. And it was even like raising its wings and kind of flying, and it was very active with other animals. So I had done a post that said, nature offers so much to be, I don't know if I said grateful for, but so many gifts. as long as you take the time to kind of be with it. And so I think it's interesting that I got because I was kind of processing being out in nature and gratitude through what I see and what it just gives you for free, really, when you take the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next word was gratitude for appreciation.
Oh, wow.
And I do feel that to truly appreciate something, you do have to have gratitude for everything. So I think this is all playing into, like, you know, processing gratitude was coming up when the words were there. So there's kind of like this cycle of gratitude is what I kind of see, which leads to appreciation of all that's around you.
Mm-hmm.
And then interestingly, and I think this is very relevant, my next word was lovingly and for forgiveness. And I've realized I need to forgive really for myself the most. Some people that may have been unforgivable in my life. And I do realize I have to do it lovingly because that's what I need to do to bring more love to myself. Because if I don't bring forgiveness, even, you know, events that are going on or what's coming to me, I won't really have the right attitude. So it's interesting that that lovingly came up there because I think it's really important, you know, that you kind of do have forgiveness at that level of love. And then my next word out of the blue was rainbows used for healing. So I think that's really fascinating. I was just in Barcelona and I could see the Mediterranean Sea from my hotel. And for 3 mornings in a row, I got up because it was like 7 a.m. It wasn't too early. And I watched the sunrise one day outside. And it wasn't a rainbow, but the colors of the sky had so many shades of beautiful colors. So I just think there's something around the rainbows and this whole nature theme playing for me as being a pathway to my heart with this cycle. And that's how I would, but I like how the words came up. It feels like there's little guidance in them for me. So I really like it.
So are you able
also,
to, please.
No, the other thing I was going to say is around love is that I love to travel, but, you know, and I realize that whenever I go to somewhere where a lot of amazing things happen, when I'm on my way home, there's something about when I'm flying in the airplane that a lot of like grief and sadness comes up. So there's something about love and the way that you process your emotions tenderly too. And I feel like that's what kind of came up for me this week, because I realized that whenever I fly home, I watch these like movies, whether they're sad or not, and I always have a good cry on the way home. And I don't really cry easily or process my emotions. It's something to do with I'm off the ground. So I think there's something around love and just like honoring yourself too and what you're feeling. That's something else that came up for me this week.
That is so insightful, what you just said about flying, being off the ground, and almost being, you know, if we think of the root and the love and that connection, when we don't have that sense of groundedness, really being in that space of that cloud of emotion, as you're describing, and then having a list.
Yeah, I never made the connection, and I just made it as I cried through 3 movies on the trip home yesterday. But I'm like, I'm always doing this on the way home. It's like I just feel so much emotion come through me, and maybe when I'm grounded, I don't process it the same way. But there's something about, you know, it's something clearing about it, and I thought that was really interesting.
And I wonder, what I'm getting intuitively on that too is what would happen if you were to do a grounding activity, a visualization, a breath type of grounding activity before getting on a plane or before traveling in whatever context, to see how the emotional state might change, right? To connect the heart a little bit closer to that sense of the root.
Yeah, that's interesting.
To observe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you say that. I've actually observed the same. I also do a lot of flying, and I've seen that with other people, and it's almost like the aircraft holds some kind of emotion collectively.
That's interesting.
So everybody's watching movies, people are listening to music, and lots of emotions because you're not really doing much work. You're kind of in your head space, your heart space. So all of that kind of tends to surface because you're in the element of air. And people are grounded and they're eating, foods that are ungrounding typically, like alcohol and coffee. And so we're very ungrounded in that state. So it's interesting. I really like what you said. It's just an experiment in the root and the love. And all the more reason why we so need that root connection. It gets back to what you said about nature, right? The call into nature, whether it's animals, the four-footed animals, connecting into the mountains, and having that sense of love connecting into a physical reality space. Wow, thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else that you wanted to say before that was on your heart?
No, I think that was it. Thank you.
That was it? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Some root love. So her words are processing, gratitude, lovingly, rainbows. All right. Who would like to go next? And Markel, I see that you came in a little bit later. Here's what we did. And you and Alicia, if you haven't done this already, you may want to do this as we're talking. 4 breaths in, and on the exhale of each, to write the first word that comes to you. And then the first word is what you're grateful for. The second word is what you're appreciative of. The third one is what you're needing to forgive or forgiveness, how to tie that in. And then the fourth one is healing. So if you want to do that while the others are checking in. Okay, Barbie.
Okay, for my first word for grateful and gratitude, I got movement.
Okay.
And I kind of thought about that afterwards, and I've been thinking about taking yoga, but keep on looking at all the equipment, looking at everything, but not signing up. And I say, well, maybe in the fall, it'll be a little bit cooler. But yeah, so that movement and grateful and gratitude, that makes sense. Second word for appreciation, I got rose. And I have to say that I've actually used spices from Teeny Tiny Spices, and it's the Persian spice.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and I make these really nice, I cook apples, and then I saute them lightly in some coconut, and then I take an almond tortilla and toast it a little bit, and then I put that on, and with that, and then I actually use the mix with the apples when I'm cooking the apples. And so that has roses in it. And then sometimes I use either apples or I use pears. So that makes sense. So maybe that's why rose is coming up. I'm not really sure. And the third for heart, I got forgiveness, right? That was to forgive. And I have to think about that one because I wrote a little bit about, I'm a Capricorn, by the way, and I wrote about the astrological.
I know, I saw that.
And cardinal signs are ones that should be easier to forgive because they just want to move on, go on, and get other things done. And I believe I have, but there must be room still to forgive something. So maybe the yoga and the movement would open my heart up more to find the forgiveness that's stuck somewhere. And for the fourth, I got company for healing and what requires healing. And company, it was more for business. I didn't see it as company coming over, family. I saw it more of as a business thing. And I am forming a new business. So maybe that's going to help heal me, move on. So yoga might really help me find out where that's all going to go. I think that'll be a good exercise for me.
I like it. Wow, intriguing. And I like the rose connection too.
Yeah.
One of the symbols, if we think of the heart, and I talked about this a little bit, is a spiraled image. Like if you think of the chambers of the heart, it's cavernous. And so if you think of, I think of broccoli florets. And if you think of like the forest, like the small nature, and if you go in very deep to broccoli, the reason why it's part of the cruciferous family, or why it's called cruciferous, is because deep in is a cross. So yes, like the crucifix, the cross. And so if we think of the heart and the heart space, and we think of our body structure almost being like a cross, in the middle of that cross, that center being the heart. And for some other symbols, usually the rose is used as a symbol of the heart. So even if we think of traditionally like Valentine's Day, giving roses because you admire, appreciate, or love somebody. You know, the rose is, and I'm sure Tracy could say something about the essential oil of rose or the plant of rose and kind of all the symbology in that way. But essentially, there's a strong connection to the heart. So that's really interesting that that came up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who would like to share? We've got Carol, Mary Ellen, Alicia, Markel. Markel, there she is.
Hi.
Hi.
I actually just got on and you said my name.
Oh, you literally just got on.
Well, I was on it for a few minutes and then I had a student, and so I just got back on. So
Okay.
I'm not sure what the question was.
Well, let's go with this just top of mind without even the breath. We did an inhale and then an exhale and then the first word that came to you. So if you want to just even do it now. So take an inhale and then the exhale. What would be your first word?
Challenge.
Challenge. Okay. Let's do another breath.
Okay.
So inhale and then exhale.
Truth.
Truth. Okay. And then what's your third word? Let's do the third breath.
Joy.
Joy. Okay. And the last one. Inhale.
Nature. It's kind of a combination of my horse and nature. How's that?
All right. We're getting some animals here today, a little bit. Chickens, cats, being in nature. And so the first one is for what you're grateful for. So for you, challenge came up.
And what I'm grateful for in regards to that?
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say I'm grateful for all I've learned, because even though it's been really hard, I probably wouldn't have learned a lot of these things had I not gone through what I've gone through. I actually wouldn't have, because there wouldn't have been any draw for me to learn about that.
Mm-hmm. So having some sense of gratitude for the lessons that you were able to get from those experiences.
Yes.
And then for appreciation, you had truth.
Well, I think that I am just really learning to stand in my truth and just be who I am and be okay with letting that truth, come forth. So standing in my truth, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm feeling that as well. Just through your posts, through what you're sharing, it does feel like it's coming to the surface. For the third one is joy, and that is connected to something around forgiveness.
Well, I know that when I forgive, I have greater joy. And I mean, there's joy in forgiveness. So that's kind of interesting that I chose that word. So, yeah.
It is. And, we did have a nice thread going on our page around forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And a number of you, including yourself, had been talking about, it's almost like Rebecca just said it, and I wrote it down when she said it, showing love is an act of forgiveness, and how it's really something we do for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then for the last one, the word was healing, and what you said was nature, and then you said your horse after that.
Yeah, it's interesting because this morning I spent a lot of time outside. So I kind of clipped back some of my green ivy plants and also prepared the barn to move some of my nice, yummy hay into the barn for the winter. And so I spent a lot of time outside. in nature, and my horses were all there, which is why that was kind of why I was thinking about what we did this morning, you know, outside, and everything is lush and green. We're like in a jungle. We've had so much rain. It's beautiful. And then my horses there, which bring me great comfort. And they're like my therapy. You know, they do love unconditionally, and they're pretty powerful animals. So in the love connection, I think, for me. So
It's interesting how a number of you really connect to horses in this group.
Mm-hmm.
Barbie, Lynn, yourself, Markel, and that strong connection to the heart space with horses.
yeah, my mom keeps saying, why don't you just sell them? I don't ride them as much as I would like. And I just said, because I can't. You know, there's just something I can go to at any time, and they are very healing. They're very nurturing. They're just, and I just, you know, so that's, I think, just such an important part for me right now in my life that I just am going to keep them.
Sounds good. Is there anything else that's on your heart that you'd like to share?
No, maybe just put out one question, because I was re-listening to the first week of the love lecture or talk that you gave. And I think that was interesting versus in regards to giving. You know, sometimes you said sometimes we give, you know, and whether we're receiving or not, you know, that's not always our intent, but sometimes it is. You know, I find it interesting most of the time when I give, I am not expecting anything back, but it's sometimes that I actually, you know, if somebody hasn't said thank you or something like that, that does pop up in my head, which I find that kind of interesting, because I'm never going in with the intent of I'm expecting something back. So I don't know if we can talk about that on another thread. I didn't get a chance to type it in yet. It has been kind of on my mind a little bit. Why am I giving so freely and not expecting, yet there's this almost subconscious expecting something? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense. Yeah. Does that speak to anybody? Would anybody like to comment on what Markel just said? Tracy? Yeah.
Two things. Also, it looks like Carol said she wanted to speak up too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's interesting. And then I beat myself up a little bit about that, Markel, when I go, I really am giving because I want to. But just that simple act of those two words, thank you, or even maybe a thank you smile, but so often, well, not so often, when it doesn't happen, I notice that it kind of does have that little, and I don't like that. So I get to let go of that as well. I understand.
Yeah. Any suggestions on how you're letting it go? It's just kind of peculiar to me that stood in the lecture.
I actually have to tell myself, Tracy, I just have to tell myself, you did not give this for any reason other than you wanted to give.
Okay.
And then, then I go, that's when I beat myself up, actually, is that I realize that that's the truth. Barbie?
Okay, what I would do is I would do a day of self-care. I did that on Friday. I went and got some shopping, some just little things, you know, for me. I had to take my fire out to the heart. And then I did a light lunch, but it was for me. I did it for me. And I normally go out and I'll find something for someone else. I think I have to find something for someone else. I'll even see something. Oh, that one will like that one. Oh, that one will like this. But I stopped and thought of me. So that's, I think, Markel, is something you should think of you, and go take a day or you know, some time and do something like you did with your horse and yummy hay. But, you know, so that's a self-care, but you might go a little bit further if you can, and just, you know, go into some shops or something that you like to do, or even just go get a massage or acupuncture or something. Self-care is the answer.
Okay. Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. both of you, Tracy and Barbie, thank you. Those are really great insights. And I feel like many of us might have that. And so I think some on the chat are saying that they feel the same. So one thing that came to my mind is when Rebecca and others were speaking to forgiveness being more of an act of self-care. So we forgive for ourselves. We can give for ourselves. So it's like a parallel. If forgiveness is an act of self-care, giving to others can be an act of self-care, because there is something that happens in the heart when we give. And so to feel in that space, that sense of what we just got from giving, it's like it comes right back. There's that exchange. But yes, I think there can be shadow places of giving, because let's go to the root again, because sometimes we could have low self-worth and feel that if I give people gifts, they will like me. This is almost like a physical manifestation of validation, trying to get validation from others through the act of giving, without the release. Here's an exercise to try. Two things come to my heart on this. One is to give gifts anonymously, to see how that feels, because that could be in a true spirit of like, okay, there's no attachment to this. This is just an anonymous gift, like you donate to somebody. You send a card in the mail with no return address on it, or any number of things that can be done very easily nowadays. The second thing, and that can be done in small amounts. The second thing, Barbie sparked my mind on this one. One of my spiritual teachers had us do an activity. We were going through the chakras, and she said, I want you to she took the root to the root to the love. And she said, I want you to go out and buy yourself a gift. Then we had to come back at the next class and say what that gift was. And for some of us, it was probably, no more than $10 to $20. And then we came back for the next class. She says, now I want you to double that and go buy yourself another gift. So for some of us, that was like $20 to $40. So then I'm kind of like catching on to what she's doing here. And then the third class, we come back and she's like, I want you to double that. So we kept going. We kept going to see who went as far and how did they transform that exercise, right? Because do we have to have a price tag, or can things have worth and value without having a dollar value? Like some of us turned it into more of a creative exercise, but it's almost like, how much are we worth? It's again connecting the root. Yeah, Tracy, the root to the love.
Well, I think that's amazing, and it kind of brought a lot up for me. And then at the same time, I thought, sometimes some of the gifts I have been given were found on the sidewalk or on a beach, and they have no monetary worth, but their worth is they mean so much. And like this weekend, that was a gift to myself. And that was, that was a big price tag for me to spend on myself. But when that came up, I didn't hesitate. I knew what an important gift it was for me, and how that carried me and taught me and brought so many other gifts that had no price tag on them whatsoever. They were just so freely given as words and hugs and conversations and things that, so therein I'm confused about that spending, and I don't know. I just needed more input on it.
Yeah. Well, and she wasn't requiring people to spend money. I think what she was looking for was to look at the value of what you give yourself. And so it was a simple way to relate it to the physical world. There was one woman in the group who ended up buying herself a car, and she needed so there was a physical side that did manifest for some of them, but I didn't go as high as some people. And there was a limit where I began to think like you, like I get value from others. It caused me to think about the value of self-care and what that looked like. And my teacher simply used the activity of something we can all relate to, which was money. And that could be an experience, it could be an object, and some of us started very low, like we just bought something so it was easier to go higher. But yes, somebody did buy a car through that experience.
That's
So.
And I consider this what I'm doing right at this moment, self-care.
Yes.
And I really can't, I mean, I know we paid for the class, but I can't put a price on, there is no price that I could put on the value of the gifts I give myself in doing this kind of work.
Yeah.
So thank you, by the way.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a great springboard into thinking about everything as self-care. If we thought of everything as self-care, even if it was giving a gift, how would our lives be different? And I do feel that when we talk self-care, in a way, it tethers us back into the heart, because when we take care of self, we can take care of others and serve others. So in essence, like if we focus on everything as being self-care, everything, even a job or every single thing, if we saw it within the lens of our hearts, what our hearts truly value and need, just our lives might be different in that way. So Markel, it would be great for you, based on what you're speaking to, and thank you for bringing up this question, because it is a good one, the idea of giving and taking and receiving with a cord. There's another great activity that another one of my teachers, a shaman, had us do, which was we had to reflect on what we have cords to. And we had to cut little pieces of thread. She gave us all twine, and we had to figure out what are all the cords that we have. And those could be cords of expectation. Those could be cords of, are we looking for affection? Are we looking for validation? Are they to people? And then we actually had to physically tape ourselves to these cords to the wall to see what that felt like. And it was like, wow, there's a lot of activity, and I'm really corded to a lot of, and if we come from the place of self-care, there are no cords, because we're working in the best interest of our heart, which serves everybody around us anyway. But when there's a cord of expectation or other things, it's kind of like that activity I posted about the potatoes and forgiveness. It's like, what do we bring into the heart space?
Nice. And I think probably my cord is for validation or acceptance. I think because I get rejected so much in so many different places, which whatever. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a little humorous because it is so like in my face, but it's not humorous. But I guess it's something that it doesn't surprise me because it has happened so much. So I guess I just need to do some more self-care to not need validation or acceptance. I just need to be able to stand alone in my truth, which I'm trying. And I do a lot, except I just still have that little bit of there. It bothers me sometimes because I don't want to stand alone, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. And I would just offer something here. When you said rejection, I wrote down redirection. So when something feels very strong and feels very like it's cutting off, perhaps it's simply a detour. We are being led spiritually on a detour. We're being redirected, and sometimes it might feel harsh, and perhaps it needs to shuttle up in these other directions.
I love that.
Tracy, I'm reflecting on what Jim was talking about just in terms of the unconscious and all the dream space, and kind of like there's a story from, we had a Jungian psychologist at the retreat this weekend, and he relayed the story of how he grew up in a home with lots of anger, but only his father could show anger, and none of the children could be angry, or there would be more anger from the father. And so he started to have dreams about being very angry with violence. And so oftentimes things come out, in terms of sometimes I reflect on that of like, okay, I just wasn't supposed to do that. Or I was supposed to meet this person instead. But sometimes, yes, it can feel a little bit tumultuous.
All right, that's really helpful. It's just that mindset reframing. I like that.
Rejection versus redirection.
Mm-hmm.
Just an idea, something that came to me immediately when you said that.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful because that's usually what it is. So thank you.
But Deanna, isn't it okay to, I mean, I don't want to be angry all the time, but isn't it okay to be angry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, which is why it was coming out in his dreams. It's like that is required, like he was processing, back to the word that Carolyn said, processing. I feel like that stuff has to come out, and it has to be, or it will come out into the unconscious space. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm not saying that we can't feel rejected, and we can't feel anger. However, there might be a literal meaning of it, and there might be a symbolic meaning, like another layer to look at. Like, yes, that feeling of rejection, but underneath, it might actually have a spiritual lesson, a symbolism of redirection. And with Jim, in the case of the anger, absolutely. It's just that he was told he could not show that anger in his family. And it's like, not being told you can't have that just makes it come out even more.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you wanted to say about that? Thank you for bringing that up.
No, I just pondering it. I realized it took me a long time to be okay with myself being angry.
Yeah.
And then to go, wait a minute, you are angry about that. But then that's when I got to struggle with the forgiveness part, and because it takes so much to push me to anger.
Yeah.
I mean, not always, but 90% of the time, it takes a lot to push me to anger.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I get there, I'm just like, I'm kind of done. And, but yeah, it's a lesson for me. It's just something I'm still learning, but thank you. That was a very good conversation. And Jim was great.
Thank you. Carolyn, you were going to say something.
Yeah. Just this whole discussion has really kind of enriched the words that came through to me and what I shared. And with the processing, being grateful, one thing that's come up to me in about the past month is, although I can feel grief really easily, like I said, in the plane, it really comes through. I know I have a lot of suppressed anger, and I've even tried to process it, and I can't. Like, I have these mechanisms where I can't even feel it when I try to recall it on demand, but I don't think it's good because it's all kind of submerged somewhere in me and I can't get it out. So I think that processing around being grateful, there could be a message around, and this emotions of the heart is maybe there's some gift if and I think the self-care and the other thing I've been thinking about is receiving, because I asked for help when I traveled. I needed it with my children. And one of my close friends from college, she wrote and she said, you never ask for anything, you're always giving. And so, it's like receiving nature, receiving the gift of processing your emotions is something to be grateful for, because I still haven't found the right, even though there's different techniques I've been trying, I just have such an innate, probably from childhood or before, where I just subdue my anger that I don't know how to, get past that. So I think it's a really interesting conversation here around, all of this. So thank you.
Wow, thank you. I'm sure for many of us, anger might be one of those difficult emotions. And one thing that comes up as part of that, at least in traditional Chinese medicine, is movement. The anger just needs to move. And so whenever I feel this swell of heat, it's kind of like my fire, the liver, and it's like, and that's why we see things like liver qi stagnation, where anger does not get expressed in a word, and then we get stagnation, we get toxicity, which is really anger toxicity. And so movement, it's like sweating it out. And even if we can't move our bodies, sitting in a sauna or sitting just any kind of movement. Tracy taking a sip of something even made me think of just even the water, back to the flow and cooling the fire. But yeah, any kind of movement helps to really, I think, ground and bring us back into that state of moving those things. Even if we can't vent in the ways that we think are normal to traditionally vent feelings, it could come out in other ways. Perhaps we need to really, I'm writing down here some ideas as to what is coming up collectively for the group. And perhaps bitterness and anger in the heart need to be delved into a little bit.
Can I say
Yeah.
so? Your video for this week, I think it was this week that I listened to both of them again today, but you talked about not, was it something like not being received? If you're not received, sometimes you'll become bitter.
If you don't get the reciprocated, what you think as your expected response, then there's like a bitterness that forms. So the heart, usually I think of anger with the fire and bitterness with the heart. Like when anger sticks around for a long time, I start to think about blood vessels and calcification, hardness, bitterness, right? It's kind of like the crustiness that happens after the burn of fire.
Yeah.
Anger is active. Bitterness is the after effect. Yeah.
So one thing that I was thinking about that, because that really hit me too. If it's not reciprocated, you don't get the expected response, you can have bitterness. And my thought is that it's a choice. And so thinking it would be a great thing to brainstorm on, how can we shift and move out of bitter so that we aren't bitter? Because, I've had a couple of things that, recently, I guess over the past couple of months that came up, and I definitely pinpointed to resentment and bitterness, but I really had to work hard because I don't want to stay there. I've seen people that are bitter and it is not a good place to be. And I don't want that. And so I really had to do a lot of different things to help shift my mind and to move through that. So I don't know, that might be a good thing for us to all, have a discussion on a thread. What things can we do? Yeah.
I wrote it down. I wrote down your word resentment too, because that's a great, bitterness and resentment are kind of like the dancing duo of the heart space. I know Carol's been trying to speak. She's been chatting and she's been raising her hand. Carol, I apologize.
Well, you know me, I have to talk. But anyway, no, I'm listening. I'm listening to
words too.
Well, my words, I'm going through like a huge shift. And like Carolyn, I forgot about the gratitude, appreciation, forgiveness, and healing, and just thought of the 4 words. And so my word was hope, relief, wisdom, and uncertainty. Because probably because of where I am. But I'm listening to like this conversation, and I have to say that, so when I was transitioning out of my job, there was a lot of anger being directed towards me, and somebody actually raised their voice on my last day and said, I don't know what you want. What do you want from me? I said, I don't want anything. I'm leaving. And overhead, they paged me. I've been at that hospital for 3.5 years. I've been paged maybe 3 times. Mm-hmm. It was a patient. A patient heard that it was my last day and wanted to see me. So I went to her bedside and she was in tears and she said, who's going to help me? And I said, no. I said, well, you'll still get the phone calls. And so she just looked at me, and it was if she came from exactly where I needed, and said, I just want you to understand that what you do is a gift, and you are a gift to me, and you pulled me out of a really bad place, and I'm here today because of that. And I said, I really needed to hear that today, and I so thank you for, letting me know. And I went back to the office, and they said, well, who was paging you? I said, it was a patient. And they said, okay, there's nothing left for you to do. You can leave. And I said, well, then okay. Farewell, everyone. And I kind of left. And it was okay with me. But I'm listening to Markel, and I went through with Bonnie and Richard Schaub, we had exercise in vulnerability. And while it doesn't seem that perhaps anger and all of those emotions are connected with vulnerability, those were the emotions that came out during that exercise. And the biggest takeaway, that exercise lasted 8 hours. And I was very angry at the beginning because I said, this is not what I paid for. I don't want to do this, because I was feeling emotions that I didn't want to. But when we left that weekend, I took away from that when you are feeling vulnerable or your emotions are feeling raw, and it's something that's deeply in the center of you, you need to look around and find out where it's coming from. And so when I deal with patients, and especially, I've dealt with some pretty angry people in all of the years that I've been working. If my mind went to where is this coming from? And were even times when you could de-escalate somebody just by looking at them and saying, why are you so angry? And they'll look at you like, well, nobody's ever asked me that before. So, and then they would connect to why. And sometimes it was something that you could really address. And sometimes it was something that just made them really think. So I think that is a great topic for maybe just like everybody said, for a thread, because right now I'm okay. I don't have a job, but I'm okay. And it's really bothering people. So I joke with my friends. I said, I'm just going to pick up my food stamps. I'm not picking up my food stamps, but it's just, my emotions are very raw. My dreams are crazy right now. And I have a great deal of hope, but I want to thank everybody for their comments, because I'm like, well, Carol, you need to acknowledge that right now you are really vulnerable. You are in a spot where I am not willing to settle for just whatever job comes up, because that's not my space in life right now.
Let's start on that. I definitely think, I love what you're saying, Carol, about vulnerability. And with the heart, that is a very tender, again, back to the rose, something very tender, fragile. I think that's excellent. Thank you for mentioning that. And it sounds
the rose actually was the visualization that started the day of that class. And it was you were supposed to visualize going down a path and you find a rose bush and there's a bud. And I personally, I said, well, I really like the bud to stay. I don't really like the rose to open. And the woman who was leading the class said, oh no. She said, this is going to be something. And she sent me the quote from Anise Nin about the courage to stay tightly in the bud. So I have that framed because she left it on my chair. And she just said, she said, you're going to be a tough one. But it was, I'll send some of there was a book that went with the class. It was $3.99 on Amazon. And I'll post the quote because thank you all. Thank you all for bringing to all of your thoughts today, because it really sparked something in me. And I truly am grateful to you all.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Carol. What a beautiful heart share. So to close, I wrote down a number of different notes so that we can start to create some threads. I wrote down all of your words. And so to close the circle of heart, what I'd like to do is to do that with 4 breaths. And this time, instead of having an exhale where a word comes to you, what I'd like you to do is on the inhale, breathe in the first word that you wrote down. On the next inhale, bring in the second word. On the third inhale, the third word, and the final word on the inhale. So you're taking in these words now. So they've come to you through the heart space, through your breath, and now you're bringing them back in. So let's close in that. Oh, Tracy, please.
Somehow I'm not loving bringing in the word chicken, but I'm going to do it.
Well, you can bring in forgiveness. Perhaps that word would resonate more.
Okay, thank you.
Would we all prefer to do grateful, appreciate, forgive, and heal? You know, you can do either. But I do want to acknowledge that these words are gifts from the heart, that they have deeper meaning. And if the word itself doesn't feel so good, maybe reflect on the depth of that word and what symbolism that might carry. And that might come to you in a dream, Tracy, when you're dreaming. So, or maybe you'll see it somewhere, as we discussed with dreams. Maybe it's not in the unconscious, but maybe somewhere it'll come to you. What it's about. Excellent. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's do our nice deep breath in, bringing in that special word, whatever it was. Taking that in, assimilating it into the heart, and asking for knowing, asking for its symbolism. Taking another nice deep breath in, the second word. Taking another nice deep breath in, your third word. And the final breath, bringing in that fourth word. And letting those words, those 4 words, dance within your heart space. If you can imagine, again, your heart like a rose, imagine that those words settle into some layer of the rose, and that your heart feels their energy, feels what they're truly about. And through your intuitive heart, you're able to receive those messages. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Really great to be here with you. And I'll see you on the Facebook page and in 2 weeks for our final webinar on the love. We will still be on the love then.
In 2 weeks, is it really on Tuesday?
Well, it roughly 2 weeks. So I don't know if it's on that Tuesday or it might be on the Monday. And if you'd like to check the schedule, we have it on the Facebook page. And it should also be with when you signed up for the webinars, it would be there.
Yeah, well, it just showed up on my calendar on Tuesday. That's come. Okay.
Then it just happens to be on that Tuesday. So that would be the 24th. Yeah. Okay. All right, everyone. Take care. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.